My guest at this time is Matthew Staver. He is the founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel, and he joins us today to react to the United States Supreme Court refusing to hear an appeal from two different states where they wanted to cut off Medicaid funding to Planned Parenthood. There's a little bit of controversy over what exactly the court did today, with some on the pro-life side being very upset and others saying it's not as big of a deal as others think. So, Matt, looking forward to your analysis here. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you. My pleasure.
I'm reading now from LifeSite News. It says the United States Supreme Court will not hear Kansas and Louisiana appeals defending their efforts to cut off Medicaid funds to Planned Parenthood, effectively forcing taxpayer funding of abortion to continue and signaling similar pro-life efforts in other states will fail. Both states tried to disqualify the abortion giant from the program in response to the 2015 revelation that the organization was harvesting and selling the organs of aborted babies, but have been tied up in court by pro-abortion lawsuits. The Supreme Court was their last recourse, but on Monday, the justices declined to take up the case. And interestingly, it takes 4 justices to want to hear a case to hear the case. This was rejected by a vote of 6-3, with Chief Justice John Roberts and the new Justice, Brett Kavanaugh, siding with the 4 more liberal justices here. So, Matt, on one side, we're hearing this as a huge win for Planned Parenthood, and then you have very smart people on the pro-life side, like Alexander DeSanctis over at National Review, saying, no, this wasn't a decision on the merits in any way. This was all about standing and some other things that were more procedural, so don't read too much into this. How do you read it?
Well, they're both right. On the one hand, it is a win for Planned Parenthood because they can continue with their lawsuit and moving forward with efforts to block their funding. On the other hand, it is a procedural statutory issue that doesn't rule on the merits. So it doesn't give us any indication where this majority court stands on the issue of abortion or Planned Parenthood in particular. It is a more narrow statutory procedural issue that was before the court. And for some reason, at least 4 justices did not want to take that case to decide it on these particular set of facts. Now, they may weigh in on this on another occasion with a different set of facts. But the good news is that it's not a ruling in favor of abortion. It's not indicating where the Supreme Court's headed on abortion or Planned Parenthood. It is only a procedural ruling. At the end of the day, it benefits Planned Parenthood, no doubt, but I think there's still a lot more down the line that will be addressing the issue of abortion with the Supreme Court. I think that probably even before the end of this term, we're going to have a major decision on abortion.
Well, we'll certainly keep watching that. One of the reasons I think some folks in the pro-life community believe this to be a major setback for the pro-life cause is because of the intensity of the dissent here from Justice Thomas for the court not taking up this case. He's pointing out the fact that different appellate courts have come to different rulings here, which is usually the reason a Supreme Court will hear a different case so they can resolve the matter when other lower courts come to different conclusions. He says, so what explains the court's refusal to do its job here? I suspect it has something to do with the fact that some respondents in these cases are named Planned Parenthood. He found this particularly troubling because the central questions of the case would not have affected the legality of abortion itself. So how do you read what Justice Thomas is saying here?
Well, it's certainly true what Justice Thomas is saying, and that's what gives you some pause. You really don't know why at least 2 more or 1 more justice did not side with the idea of taking this case. There certainly is a split among the circuit courts of appeal on this very procedural issue. So that is typically where the Supreme Court decides to resolve those circuit splits. And they have one in this particular case. Why they ultimately decided at least another justice or 2 not to take the case, I don't know. We're not going to ever know because a denial of review does not rule on the merits. So we're just hoping and praying that, in another decision down the line, there will be some major advances constitutionally on the issue of abortion. I think hopefully we're going to see that this term.
You've already got some folks on the right comparing Brett Kavanaugh to David Souter. Would you say it's a little early for that comparison?
Oh, I think that comparison is just really way premature. He is no David Souter by any stretch of the imagination.
So what will you look for? What other cases are you aware of, if any, that are perhaps going to give the Supreme Court the opportunity to look at this for real?
Well, there's already 2 cases that have been petitioned to the U.S. Supreme Court. The cases are not yet fully briefed for them to have a chance to review. We'll see that happen after the first of the year, and that's a big case out of Indiana regarding abortion. It's also another case out of Alabama, and for that particular matter, I think the Alabama one presents a classic challenge, both of them do, to Roe versus Wade. And those both are pending before the U.S. Supreme Court, but they're not ready for them to decide whether to take it. We're not going to have that until sometime after the first of the year, but either one of those cases could be blockbusters.
Well, we'll certainly keep watching. Important news from the court today. We'll see what they do on this issue, as you mentioned, with other cases in the pipeline. Thank you, sir, as always, for your time today. We appreciate it.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Matthew Stavers, the founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel. I'm Greg Corombos, reporting for Radio America.